Good morning to you. Good evening to us. Hi, my name is Jay, and I will be demoing to you the Amazon Workspaces. So today I'm just going to show you a day in the life of a cloud administrator as Joe. So what we will do, we are performing three tasks. Okay, the first one is that there is a new full-time employee that needs to be created a workspace user, so we will create one. The second one is that there is an employee who resigned, and we will already remove her access for AWS workspaces. And number three, there is a request for a VLC and VSDC application for one employee for him or her to use. Okay, so now here I am using the Workspaces app or the Workspaces, and being the cloud administrator, I will log in to my instance. So let me just key in the username and password. Okay, so we're starting it. Now I'd like to point out that all the tasks that I just mentioned will be performed in AWS Workspace. Okay, so as you can see from the display, this is AWS Workspaces. We can resize it to fill the screen, and just give it a few seconds. Okay, and notice that the icon for Windows and time does not change, so it actually follows the format of your screen or the medium that you're using. And I'd like to also mention that Workspaces supports full high definition on 4 monitors and for Ultra HD 4K up to 2 monitors. Now, just a quick note, communication is encrypted via PCOIP. Only pixel display, keyboard, and mouse clicks microphone and speaker data are transmitted. And company files are not in worker laptops. So if a device is stolen, no company files will be compromised. So let's go to the first task. Now, we are to create a new workspace user. And in the essence of time, I've already pre-created Jill as the user for the new user or the new employee. So let's get started. So here, I'm going to the AWS Management Console. This is what will be used by the cloud administrator to manage workspaces. And then just click on Workspaces here. Okay, now we have here our current users. As you can see, there is no one named Jill, so we will launch Workspaces. Okay, now we can select which group Jill will be a member of. So for this one, she will be part of the full-time employee, and then click Next Step. And then in this directory, we will show all users. Okay, then just select the user that you've created in Active Directory. In this case, it's Jill. Add selected, and then next step. Okay, now that we're here, we can choose what the compute power is and memory that we will be assigning to the particular user. So in this case, I'll just choose the standard with Windows 10. Then next step. And then this one, I just like to point out that for the running mode, we always give the choose the auto stop so that if the user of the workspace has been idle for an hour, it will automatically log out. Now, for manage tags, this is mainly used for billing purposes so that we can identify or we can associate it to the user. So in this case, that's the key would be team, and the value will be full-time employee. After that, click next step. Okay, if everything looks good, we can already launch our workspaces. There you go. Okay, let me just go to full screen so that everybody would appreciate using this as the medium. Okay, so once this is done, you will see a notification that it will take about 20 minutes for the new user, for Jill, to use or workspace to be active. Once this is done, you can send an invite user so that she will receive her login details. Okay, now the next task of Joe is to actually delete or terminate the workspace for Ruth, who has recently resigned. So here in the same workspace console, we will search for her name, and in this case, it is Ruth. If in case there are more than 6 users, you can you can type the name here for the workspace ID or the name. So here we can see that Ruth is available. And what we will do is select her username, and then we can do remove workspaces. And now it will give you a prompt saying that this will be removed, and it will the user will no longer be available to access her her workspaces. So once it is confirmed, you can click remove workspaces. Okay, now once this is done, you will be seeing that it will take a certain time, like 5 minutes, to fully remove the user from the workspaces. So that is task number 2. Now for task number 3, there is a request for Bob to use specific applications like VLC or VSDC. Now in a real world scenario, there are different departments who should have access to different applications only and not for a general use. So in this case, we have Bob here requesting for additional applications. So in the same console, we will go to the Applications Manager, click Applications, and here are the applications available. Now, I just want to point out that for this purpose, I'm using the Workspace Application Manager, and alternatively, you can use SCCM or Group Policy Installation. Okay, so for this one, I'll be using Workspaces Application Manager. So the request was for these 2 applications. So select both, and then click on Actions and assign application to users. Now, I will have to select a directory. Bob belongs to the full-time employee, so I will click on this one. And then I will search for user. Username is Bob. Okay, there we go. And we can just select the name of the person, Bob. Click here, and then we go to next. Okay, now there are 2 options. You can have them install automatically or required, or it can be optional for the employee or the workspace user. In this case, I will put both as required. Okay, once everything is clear, click review. And then we can confirm and assign. Okay, in this case, we would like to check if Bob is indeed using or has already received the application. So we will just click there. And, oh, sorry, let me just put this one. Okay, now within Amazon Workspaces, I'll do a little inception wherein I'll access Bob from inside Amazon Workspaces. Okay, so let's type username Bob and his password. And then sign in. Okay, here we go, it's launching. Okay, now this is the instance or Amazon Workspace instance of Bob. Now, how do we check if the application has been installed? So one key giveaway is that VLC is already here. It was already created a shortcut for him. And we can also check with the Amazon Workspace Application Manager. As you can see here, there are 2 that have already been installed. Okay, so there, this is the day in the life of a workspace user who happens to be Joe, the administrator, and he has fulfilled all 3 tasks. So that's it for my workspace demo. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Jay. Greatly appreciated. Up next are Zscaler solutions. And here to talk to you about Zscaler is Gabriel.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to give, I can start with presenting my use case for this demo. So basically, let's say I'm a security administrator and I need to configure access policies for two people in two different departments. So the first person would be Alice, who is a marketing manager, and she's part of the media department. So she's going to need access to social media sites like Facebook and YouTube, but not access to backend resources like the databases and the servers. The second person would be Bob, who is a DB admin for the dev team, and he's going to be the one who needs access to the backend resources, uh, but is not going to need access to the social media sites for his productivity. So to do that, we're going to need to make two policies, one in ZIA and one in ZPA. The one in ZIA we're going to be uh, creating a policy to control access to Facebook by blocking everyone except the media team. And the other one in ZPA is to allow the dev team access to the dev environment. So to do that, we can go to the admin portal. So we can start with ZIA. This is the admin portal, which is hosted by Zscaler. So we can sign in. So here we can see a lot of features that ZIA has. So aside from the simple features of URL filtering, ZIA also allows you to monitor network traffic and have and block potential malwares. It also lets you sandbox and quarantine files depending on your rules, and it also has data loss prevention functionality. So, but for this demo, we're going to be using the URL and cloud app filtering feature. So to create a policy to block Facebook, we can go here to the cloud app control policy and create a social networking rule. So we can name it something like block FB, and we can set it to all departments and to everyone so that it's a blanket rule to block the website. That's it. So you can also select the application that you want to block. So you can set it to everything, but we are going to be specific to Facebook. So we can, now that we have a blanket rule, we can create a secondary rule with a higher priority to exempt the social media team. So we can do something like this. So here we can see the criteria for which we can select, we can control the, the access to Facebook. So we can select which users you want to block, which groups you want to block, or which department. So for ZIA and ZPA to work, you have to integrate them with an IDP. So this can be something like Okta or ADFS, but for this demo, we're using ADFS. And Bob and Alice have their department attributes set to dev and media. So since we're going to allow the media team, just have to select that. It also allows you to select from what location they can access it, what time interval they can access it, and it also allows you to um, limit the amount of data that website can use and for how long that person can use that site. So now we have that. Just save. And we now have the policy for Facebook. So next we can create the policy to allow the dev team access to their dev environment. We can go to the Zscaler private access admin portal, which is also another website hosted by Zscaler. Here, we can quickly see the applications that I've already predefined that users can access. We're specifically going to be allowing Bob access to an SQL server. And here I have it defined to allow access to the whole subnet where the servers are deployed. But this can also be something like as specific as a server IP or maybe a domain name. You also have to specify the kinds of the port ranges the application can be accessed from. So to create that policy, we just have to go here to the access policy and create a rule. So we can name it this. And here we have the criteria for a ZPA. So we can be as specific as allowing access to a specific app or to a group of apps. So since we want to be specific, we can just select the SQL server. We limit it to the department attribute of Bob. And here we can see there are two ways of accessing ZPA and the app. So the first is the Zscaler app, and this is the preferred way because it's much simpler. And the second is the web browser, is ZPA browser access. So this is a use case for when maybe a third party contractor doesn't have the ability to install software on their workstation. They can log in via the browser and they'll be able to use the application normally for as long as that session exists. You can also limit access according to the network they are on, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll be sticking with these. So now we have those two policies configured. I can show you the perspective of what Alice would see. So here I have a workspace instance with Zscaler installed, and one of the cool things about this Zscaler app is you can install it in strict enforcement mode, which means that if the user isn't logged in to Zscaler, they won't be able to access the internet. So we can see here that I wasn't logged in, and if I try to access Google or Facebook, I won't be able to. But if I log in, so here you can see I am now logged in via to ZPA and ZIA, and I should now be able to access Google. And since we're Alice, we should be able to access Facebook. So I also have a pre-configured rule which blocks illegal websites such as gambling and other material. So you won't be able to access that. And she also won't be able to access the SQL server, which you see here. So here I have another workspace instance, this time with Bob logged in. And since I'm Bob, I should be able to access the internet, like Google. But if I try to go to Facebook, I refresh, I won't be able to access it. What I will be able to access though is the database, and we can see that by logging in here. And there you go, I'm logged in. So another feature of ZPA and ZIA is it allows you to track user activity. So we can see here in the ZPA admin portal, if you go to the dashboard, you'll see a lot of information on the current users and the health of various applications and connectors. So if you go into one of the users, you'll be able to see what apps they connected to, how long it took, where they connected from, and a bunch of other information about the network. For ZIA, same thing. You can go to the dashboard, and you can see a lot. You have a very broad overview of what activity is going on within the network. So you can also see here what the user has browsed to. See that I browsed to a bunch of sites before this. Uh, you can also generate reports using this. Day has predefined ones, but you can create custom ones. So there's user browsing history and other information like that. Other reports based on whatever traffic is going on. So that's it for Zscaler and ZIA and ZPA. There's a lot more functionality than what I can show here in the demo, but I'll be handing off this time for AppStream.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So up next is Nika with AppStream 2.0.
So hello, I will be presenting on AppStream. So as mentioned by Jared a while ago, so it lets the user access applications through a browser. So for this demo's use case, Joe, the cloud administrator, has prepared a limited functionality device like a hardened notepad or Chromebook for Bob, the user, which only has a browser application and is restricted to only allow access to a certain application set via a browser. All right. So In accessing the upstream session, note that upstream supports Active Directory integration, but manual creation of users is also supported if there is no Active Directory. So for this demo, I will only be showing an example on how it works with EADFS integration. So a link is generated by the administrator and will be accessed by the user. Okay, so let us now try to access the session as Bob, the user. As you can see my screen, I will sign in as Bob. All right. So while connecting, the applications that we pre-installed in this session are WC3270, Zscaler, and Internet Explorer. So let's assume Bob is a mainframe user. Let us first try to connect using the WC3270 terminal application as soon as this connects. All right. Just a few moments. Okay, as you can see, we will copy and paste the connect command, and as we can see, we can now successfully connect to a browser to the mainframe and can now log in using our credentials. So with Upstream, Bob did not need to install the application himself in his own personal computer and just accomplish the task using a browser. So now for the security, Upstream allows Joe to restrict applications that Bob can access. So it is important to note that Bob or any user could not install additional applications such as games to the Upstream session. But there is another security issue. So what if Bob is given access to a browser inside the Upstream session? So for network level restrictions such as browsing, we will demo how Joe can use Zscaler. So as long as the user has not yet logged in the Zscaler application, we can see that we could not connect to any of the sites, Google or Facebook. But as soon as we input the credentials of Bob, I will just input the credentials of Bob. All right, and we sign in. As long as this authenticates successfully, yeah, so it's connecting. So since we configured that Bob should not be able to access Facebook, we can see that we could still not access Facebook, but we configured Bob to access Google. So as we can see, we can access Google. All right, another thing that I want to show you is that Bob could not log out without the password that can only be accessed by the administrator, which is Joe. Before I end, another thing is that once Bob disconnects from his Upstream session, the credentials for Zscaler get erased, thus requiring him to log in again. So I hope you got an idea on how Upstream can be a useful tool in distributing applications securely. That's all for the Upstream demo. Thank you.